You guys ever have something going on that just makes you so gosh darn mad? Well, for me, at the start of today, it was realizing I'm starting to get a little bit sick. I'm fighting off a cold. But then it got replaced by something that I find even more frustrating, which is people at track days who don't understand that when they're obviously the slower car, they just refuse to get out of the way. They put their pride in pole position and everyone else ain't worth a single gosh darn thing. Like I said, I've been sitting at home feeling a little bit sickies today, and I was just kind of scrolling around YouTube today and came across a video from this guy named Boxo, or B0X0, however he chooses to say it, and that says, Laguna Seca, when you're 9 seconds a lap slower, maybe just let him pass. This stuff always grinds my gears and just really pisses me off overall. For those who don't know, I used to own a NB Miata for a very long time. Love that car. It is a fantastic platform. But while I owned that car, I did a fair number of track days just to kind of get the car out and have it stretch its legs a little bit away from street driving. And what happened genuinely, without fail, at every single track day I ever took that car to, is there would be some guy in a Porsche or a Corvette or some faster, higher horsepower car that would see me fly up on them going at a much faster pace and just would refuse to do a point by, would just put the foot down on the straightaway, and despite me catching up to them 2 corners later, could not put their ego aside and let me pass. So it's something that's very near and dear to my heart as clowning on these people. So when I saw this video, I just started getting worked up and decided to just fire up OBS and start making fun of this guy. So sitting on board with this GT3 for a few corners here, we can kind of see his driving a little bit, and I'm not going to go super crazy analyzing it, but he seems like a pretty competent driver. He said he ran about a 1 minute 37 second lap time on Laguna Seca, which for this car, I honestly don't know if that's good or not, but he seems like he's positioning his car more or less in the right parts of the track. He could maybe use a little bit more space to the left or right to get a bit closer to the edge, but his car is generally in the right place. He's getting to throttle nice and early. He's braking pretty late. Maybe he's overslowing a little bit, but like I said, I'm really not looking at his driving too closely. This is a good, competent driver is basically the point I'm trying to get across here. So now he's starting to catch up with traffic where sooner or later we're going to find our antagonist up ahead. So now we've started to reach the pack of importance. We've got 3 cars that we could choose from here. We've got a beautiful silver R35 GTR, a beautiful, also silver, E92 M3, and a nice, clean, white GT4 RS. Now I want you guys to put your guesses in. Place your bets, put everything down on the table before the time clock comes to an end here. And now let's see who the culprit is. Alright, so now you can see, for those of you who haven't been able to tell, it's the GT4 RS. Absolute douche, leading a line of 3 cars behind him, not a single point by. You can see by some of the other cars that have let this GT3 by that there is a point by system. There is no open passing at this track day to ensure that everyone stays safe and doesn't risk any damage to each other's cars. So all these people during this session that everyone's probably paid good money to be here for, Laguna Seca is not a cheap track, something that maybe this guy in the GT4 RS should be reminded of. And this GT4 RS just has not let a single point by go by so far. Our GT3's working his way up to the front of the line behind our register attendant here who is pretending to drive a car. So now we're reaching the front straightaway here. The GT3 has finally caught up to this GT4 RS. Now the GT4 RS, fun fact, does take off a little bit faster than the GT3. The car we're on board with here is a 991 GT3, which they take off roughly about 0 to 60 in 3.2-ish seconds. This GT4 RS up ahead here is a little bit less than half a second faster taking off in a straight line. So with this guy's extra power here, surely he'd swallow his ego and let the GT3 by, knowing he has the faster car and that he just really doesn't have that pace, and maybe if he lets a car by, he can get a couple pointers here, especially a car that's a fellow Porsche. So let's see if that point buy comes to fruition. And no, who would have guessed, between burning $100 in his top floor penthouse and doing whippets on the front straightaway, the GT4 RS has decided that no, actually, everybody who's behind me must be incorrect. They're all slower. I just simply let them catch up to me. Now let's get to a real driving man's part of the track so I can show him what it's really about. The straightaway. Like, what an absolute dick, dude. I hate these guys. Right here into turn 1, the GT4 RS showing us exactly how it's done. You never want anyone to be too sure whether or not you're going to be able to find the racing line all by yourself. You want to keep it right down in the middle of the track, braking as early as possible. That way you have just enough grip to be able to go in any which direction and not really give a clear sight as to where you're going. Now this right here, this is an advanced technique. This technique involves only the utmost skill and car control. As you can see, our pitifully slow GT3 that we're on board with here drives all the way out to the left side of the track like he's gonna set up the braking zone to turn into this right-hand corner like an absolute chump. No. We need to take some proper driving advice from the GT4 RS in front here. As you guys could clearly see, he's showing us how it's really done. Staying right there in the middle of the track, being nice and hard to predict, and then under-braking, merging over to the left-hand side, driving yourself away from the corner, so that way you can make that turn in even tighter, just to stunt on these plebeians behind you who are way too slow and somehow think that they're faster. Now our GT3 is finally starting to be done with this guy, and boy, oh boy, am I rooting for him so heavily. I thought he was going to go for a pass there, just an unprompted one, and just send it up his inside, and oh my god, did I want to see that so bad. But probably smart not to do that. We have this Miata up ahead here who's completely uninvolved in the situation, and you don't want to involve him in a dangerous situation, as well as the kink being up here, being such a fast corner. To people with eyes, the GT4 RS obviously sees a parking stop for him to get out of his car and go shopping at the local Ralph's. But for the GT3 here, he's very keenly aware that this is kind of a fast section, and though he's putting on that pressure to tell this GT4 RS to get the fuck out of the way, obviously he can't take matters into his own hands and jeopardize his safety as well as the senile old man in front of him. So here we come in a familiar situation because obviously, like I said, this GT4 RS driver is an absolute machine that the mere likes of us don't understand. Driving right down the middle of the road there like an RC car on a fixed track, showing us how it's done. But he might now be starting to realize that this GT3 has been able to stick with him and observe his driving potential this entire lap. So now we're finally coming back around to this front straightaway again, and let's see if this GT4 RS now concedes the position. Let the pupil show the master how to drive. No, of course he doesn't. This guy fucking sucks. He has duct tape wrapped around his mirrors, blinders on his eyes, and a bottle of alcohol in his left hand with the whippets in his right hand. This guy doesn't even have his hands on the wheel. He doesn't know what he's doing. The The first time I saw that, I legitimately got giddy in my seat with excitement. The sickness went away and I felt like a rejuvenated man watching this guy in a GT3 do a move that I approve so heavily of. A lot of times in these track day videos, when people just aren't letting other cars by, the people you're on board with are too afraid to break the rules and take matters into their own hands, which you can never fault them for because the rules are built around safety and keeping people safe out there. That's why open passing at these track days usually isn't allowed. But I've been in plenty of situations where these people just full on don't respect you and don't want to let you by and have your own fun. They want to waste your time and your money, which for some people maybe that's not as big of a deal, but for someone like me, a track day is very expensive for me. But seeing this GT3 here actually go for the move, say fuck you, fuck your point by, and pass him around the outside into turn one, I think is such a awesome move. Just whole hog right there on the table, locking up the brakes, passing into the corner, saying, you're slow, get out of my way, go complain to an official, see if I care, I'll show him this video of you being an absolute schmuck. I love this move and I respect it so heavily. Obviously, I can't vocally say that I encourage it because it is breaking the rules, and like I said, these rules are based around safety, but in very specific instances like this, where this guy's literally coming up on this GT4 RS who's already holding up multiple cars for God knows how long before he caught up, and then even when he's the first car behind, gets held up for over a lap. This is just money being burned down the drain here. It's not fair. So taking matters into his own hands here and having the skill to pull that move off, I think was so damn cool. And I just wanted to talk about it here a bit because I respect the hell out of it, and I absolutely hate people with fast cars who don't give point buys when they're slow drivers. It is a massive pet peeve for me, and I think every person who gets caught on video doing it needs to be made fun of. But that's pretty much it. From here on out, this GT3 just continues to run his session and put some laps down, and like he said in his description, he hit about a 137 out there, which I don't know if it's good or not, but if he mentioned it, he must be proud of it, so I'm happy for him there. He mentioned the GT4 RS as well was going a staggering 1 minute 46, which is slower than what Spec Miata's run on this track. Just wanted to throw that in there as well for how pathetic this guy is in such a nice expensive car. And I just wanted to share this topic. Don't be a guy who doesn't point people by. It doesn't matter how fast your car is. You could have the fastest straightaway car there. If you're slow in the corners, just move out of the way. Swallow your pride and just let it go. You look embarrassing if you don't. But I'm glad you guys could watch, and hopefully you could take this message to heart. So carry on from there. And thanks.